Did you get your answer about Kit Kats so we could have an
I did
actual
not.
value?
I did not. And I got a lot of people asking me, okay, so what does it actually mean? Did you ever find out? I did. After I got probably 25 DMs today saying, okay, so what is it? I did message, it's Hobby Shark, right? I did message Hobby Shark. And I did say, all right, I got to know what the hell this is. Kit Kats in the shower. I got to know because I don't know what it is.
If you are not this tall, you cannot ride. If
That's
you
right.
are not under 35, you cannot know what Kit Kats in the shower
is.
is.
Kit Kats in the shower. I don't know. So I don't know what it is. Did you find out what it meant?
I can count on one hand how many times you've wore a hoodie in 855 episodes.
Usually I was sick, right?
What is happening?
I just wanted to pick up Ian a little early today because it was a little cold out there and he wants to build Lego. He's building a baby Yoda Grogu. So he said, pick me up today. So I finished the call and I said, I'm just going to run out and get him. So I just threw a sweatshirt on. Normally I'll put just a t-shirt on, but I texted you and said, hey, I'm ready to rock whenever you are, not thinking you'd be like, yeah, let's go. So I didn't even take the t-shirt. I didn't even take the hoodie off. It's cold, man. It's like 41 degrees in New York right now. It's cold.
I don't envy you. All right. So Luca Nation, welcome back. Lucas Tigers and Bronzo My. Action-packed week. A lot of really awesome content going live on our channel. We have episode 3 of Black Jaded Wolf Uncaged. That's going to be fun. There's a lot of probably metaphors and lessons about what we can do with Justin Fields now. We'll talk about the Eagles game in a second. Cajun and I just recorded a update to the NBA season.
Lots of stuff to talk about.
I want to ask you about UFC. I want to hear your thoughts on the Eagles losing to the Redskins, and I want to hear your thoughts on the $50,000 whatnot stimulus package.
So you have to give me info on that. But I have one question for you that's going to take 30 seconds, I think. It's a card question. Yes. Right? You've done the whole buy a finest card, take the peel off, and regrade it, right? No?
I've tried. My fingers are too fat, and I have shaky hands. It's really hard to get the peel off.
But you know what we're talking about,
yes.
Right? The finest coating, with the peel. They even PSA says peel and not peel. Let's say you bought a card. What's one that, like a Michael Jordan finest refractor, let's call it, right?
Sure.
Right? And it had the peel on it.
96, 97 finest. A lot of them.
Perfect. It's a great one, right? And let's say you pulled the peel off of that finest Michael Jordan, and for some reason, a little bit of the peel stayed on the corner of the card. Obviously, your intent was to unpeel it, but for some reason, a little bit of the peel just stayed on the
surface issue.
Okay. Surface issue? What do you mean surface issue?
Well, ask your question.
Well, I don't have to. You're answering it.
I think that's a surface issue. That's a surface defect. That's something that's there that shouldn't be there.
But you could take it off, right?
Yes.
So that little piece can come off the card. All right? Right? It can come off. So you submitted it. You just didn't see that was still on the card, that little bit. The grader can probably take it off and boom, it's right. It's like rubbing off a piece of dust, like a fleck of dust, and it's a perfect card underneath. If the grader didn't even see that little piece was on there because it's a weird kind of thing, it's just the coating, whatever it is, and look at the card, look at the edges, look at the whole deal, and graded it a 10, and you got it back, and you posted this card on your Instagram, and people went and said, Andrew, what the hell is that? That card's missing a piece of the surface. And you said, well, I don't think it's missing a piece of surface. I graded it, and it looks good to me. Let me wait till I get it back in my hands. And then you got it back in your hands, and you opened it up, and you saw, oh, shit, I left a piece of that peel on the card, and you took it off. Would you be mad if people were attacking you on Instagram for leaving a little bit of that peel on the card and a grader happening to miss it?
Man, I love this guy. 855 episodes.
Would you be mad about that?
Your questions are long.
They're long questions, but you understand what I'm asking.
I forgot it was a question at some points. I was just listening to you, which is amazing.
Very detailed question with very specific facts for a reason.
The grader should be held accountable for missing that. I should not be held accountable for getting a 10.
Right, and you got a 10. And the grader missed it, and the grader could have just taken it off himself. Now you were able to take it off, and you show people pictures of it.
Unless I am the CEO of the grading company, then it's a conflict of interest. The perception of a conflict.
Wait, but the reason why the question is 5 minutes long is because I didn't ask about conflict of interest. I asked about you specifically sending in a card that had a little bit of peel on the corner, and then being attacked for it on Instagram. Like, wow, Andrew, you have 850 episodes under your belt. You've cracked more cards then we know what to do. You're a crack expert. We know. We
I'm
listen
a
to you every
crackhead.
day.
That's
You're
why
an
I left the
expert on
peel.
crack, right? So, and the peel's there. And well, guys, it wasn't my fault. Yeah, I missed a little piece of peel, and the graders gave me a 10. Shit, I'll take the peel off. Okay, everything's great. So anyway, I bring this up because that's exactly what happened with that card. I don't know if you guys have seen it yet. Take a look at my post on my page. Everybody who has posted about this has ignored it. Nat decided to go on Twitter and post about it. But wouldn't you know it, it wasn't missing a piece of the surface of that card, that Jordan Triumvirate. It wasn't missing a piece of the surface. It was a piece of peel, just like the other finest cards, you name it, have that was left on the card. It's an awkward looking card, like I talked about in our debate over Nat and this card. And wouldn't you know it, you take that little piece of peel off, which is in the second picture of my post, and there it is, third picture. Card is perfectly great. Out of the slab, it'll get regraded. Hopefully taking that piece off didn't damage the card because the card's a gorgeous card. And now we'll have a 10. I bring this up for a reason, right? Sometimes, as I said, see, there you go. There's my post. A bunch of people asked about it. Now, if you flip it to the pictures, you'll see, there it is. See that little yellow piece? That was what people thought was a surface area, like a missing piece of the surface on the card. But now you can see in the next picture, it's not. It was just a piece of peel that was on the card. Now, were there mistakes made? 100%. By Beckett, when they originally graded it with the peel on and said everything was great, by the original PSA grader who found it. Now it looks like all is well that ends well. I guess the point, guys, twofold. Number one, sometimes when you go to Scotland and you visit the lock, it's just a shadow, no matter how much we want it to be a monster. And second, more importantly, is we should not be newspapers that use a headline to paint somebody in a bad light and then print the retraction 2 weeks later on page 16 below the fold.
Redacted. Redacted.
I mean,
so that wasn't a question at all.
No,
like
it never is.
Even like what? That wasn't even a question. Let me ask you a question. That's 30 seconds long. It's really just my thesis and statement. Hit end recording, and that's another episode, Luca Nation. Well, what?
So there you go, man. And it's hidden in Twitter. He didn't even post about it on Instagram, probably because Instagram has already made its mind up. And there are other ancillary issues you bring up, conflict of interest, CEO grading, and the whole 9 yards. We could talk about that if you like. But the point being,
stop putting the soda near the microphone.
I like that, right? The point being, no, come on, people love it. It's effervescence. That is my energy. So what I will say here is, the point is the hobby, guys. I mean, I know we're stupid influencers, and we're the dummies who are supposed to say, oh, hobby positivity. That's just an excuse. To look the other way. No, I mean, in truth here, I would say hobby, give the whole friggin' story. Because
we didn't know the whole story till just a second ago.
But here's the fun part. You tell me over the next day or two how many people post about the additional part. Because the damage is done.
Stand here with like one of those clickers where people walk in and I'm like, there's another post.
Just take note. Just take note of how many there are. The damage is done, so I guess we'll be leaving. Your favorite song?
Honestly,
I sang it the other day. Whoa.
I like to have conversations and all that stuff, but I don't really love to like audit other people's content. Other people's content's other people's content. Our content's our content. Like I'm quick to call out, and we're quick to say, "Hey, here's new information." That's all I have to worry about. I don't have to go and answer for other people's like redactions. You know what I mean?
So no answer. So, and I don't care if people do it or don't do it. What I'm doing is making an observation that, generally speaking, the people who are out there putting stories in the ether, that if new facts come to light that make them less fantastic, there's no additional part of it because it doesn't drive the clicks. It doesn't push the narrative, and that's fine. I'm not auditing anything either. What I am doing is making a commentary on our platform about that particular space in the hobby. And I think it's fair.
It is interesting because there's also the fact of, do graders know the difference between foil on the surface and like a piece of dust? And if there's foil on it, maybe they don't even consider it a defect.
Maybe. I mean, listen, separate part of the question. That's something the grader probably should have caught. You know what I mean? And that is a card that probably doesn't get graded that often.
Well, he or she probably caught it. That's why they gave it a 10, because they're like, there's nothing wrong with the card. There's just a piece of foil still left. Once that's peeled off, that's going to be fine.
But I mean, then it becomes, should they be peeling it off themselves? But do they
Definitely
not peel
not.
it
That's a
off
lot
because
of
then you
liability.
damage the car? Yeah, I mean, I honestly, I don't know the answer. All I know is sometimes there's more to the story. Right now, without the additional context, somebody listening to our Nat debate a couple episodes ago would think you won, and that card shouldn't have been a 10, and it got graded a 10. Well, now we have additional facts. I just want to make sure everybody
Don't you
sees the
think
additional
the win
facts.
is the transparency? Is the hey, this is what happened. Nat gets the card, he cracks it open, he posts on Twitter, he's like, this is what happened. The win is the transparency. It's okay, we have
Yes.
more.
Very good. And I'm glad you went there because you're right.
Yes.
And I'm not saying anything bad about the people who brought it to light, because I also will say, if we're taking it exactly where you're going, well done, is that we wouldn't have gotten this additional post if the original folks hadn't called this out. So now we get a complete story because there are people watching. And that's a good thing, man. I mean, it's we'll release Black Jaded Wolf Uncaged tomorrow, and I talk about like the ecosystem of the hobby.
Sell Jalen Hurts. Sell Jalen Hurts.
We hardly talked about Jalen Hurts, but we did talk about the ecosystem and the different people who make up the hobby, and how it is a circle of life and how it goes around, and mystery packs, you name it, the whole deal. Repacks. This is another example of that. From a content space, from a watchdog space, right? I mean, you went on, did I think a very good hour live with AIH, bringing up a lot of stuff that, normally did not get mainstream attention. So yeah, I mean, it does, it serves its purpose. AIH, who would play AIH in the movie? In the movie of the hobby, who would play AIH?
Aziz Ansari. Next question.
I say Stuber.
No clue who that is.
I don't know the actor's name. He was in a Marvel movie recently, but he played Stuber against opposite Dave Bautista. That's what he reminds me of. Look it up. Look up Stuber. Look up Stuber. You'll know the actor I'm talking about. Stuber. 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 Look it up. Come on. What else do you have to do with your life? Your podcast is your full-time job.
Andrew Stuber?
Just Stuber. No, not Andrew Stuber. The movie is Stuber. Stuber.
Kumail Nanjiani?
Yeah.
You know that guy is ripped, ripped.
Well, because he did the Marvel movie. And he bulked up for the Marvel movie.
He TRT'd. Remember, we are a sports card podcast, so talk to me a little bit about UFC. Because the last 2 episodes have been just off the rails. It's been like drama and
cards, like the cards. We talk about the cards.
Actually, cards.
I mean, you want to spend 12 minutes talking about a card grading and peel on it and the whole deal. I mean, we're not getting any more.
I guess my brain is such a pretzel, I didn't even realize. I'm still waiting for the punchline of the question. I'm like, I'm ready. I'm going to deliver. And then he threw something that's like this. Who is AIH? I'm like, Aziz Ansari.
So UFC, what do you want to know? What do you want to know about UFC? What do I want to know about UFC? What my response to like the fights were, or cards? Or
does UFC need another Connor to be cardboard relevant? Because no one cares about UFC. It's fun from like an entertainment perspective, but I haven't heard anybody mention UFC cards in a minute.
There's a reason why I call UFC, tennis, F1, soccer fringe parts of the collection. And while soccer
is not started fringe, with UFC though.
I started with UFC, but
yes.
but I knew if you spent more than $20 on a UFC card, I knew who you were and probably what state you were from. And that was not that long ago, because there weren't a lot of people, because it was a fringe collection base, and all of us knew each other. You know what I mean? It was a very small community of UFC collectors. You say, does it need another Connor for it to survive? I will throw it back to you and say, oh, great Andrew, who is the hobby leader for the last couple of years you've been here. What does it mean to survive in the hobby?
I didn't say survive. I said to be cardboard relevant.
So even that. So the relevant. What do you consider cardboard relevant? Because the small niche collecting community who loved UFC cards when they came out in 09 and 10 and 11, and people who collected it before that, when they had Pride cards from Japan, and even Donruss had some UFC cards in 08, they were fine collecting and not worrying about how much somebody was paying for XYZ. They were buying what they liked, and that was a collection. Now, if you mean by cardboard relevance, is it relevant to the people who attend the show in Dallas? Yes. then it needs some other. It needs some other. Some other, let's call it catalyst. Is that the good word? Whether it's a star, a top end person, a new set. Prism became that catalyst for the UFC among this Dallas segment of the hobby. I'm going to just call it that way, the Dallas segment of the hobby, because it's easy. The flipping sector, which it's great. I love those people. I love them all. But, the people who were buying Conor cards could not name 3 other fighters in Conor's division. They probably couldn't name who the champs were. They probably had a very difficult time. I'm not talking about name the entire roster of Barca when you're a soccer collector. Wink, wink. But these guys were not pushed. They were looking for an area where price discovery hadn't happened yet, where population discovery hadn't happened yet, where there was a shiny new thing that can be moved and sold to somebody else. Those are not fans of a sport. They are not collectors. So to be cardboard relevant, UFC will always be cardboard relevant. The difficult part is now the amount of production that came out in the last couple of years. A lot of those cards won't remain relevant because there's not going to be enough demand out there in the collecting base of the UFC to sustain that supply. So yeah, does it need a Conor? Conor helps.
Cage is on fire today. This is amazing stuff. He came ready to play. If he's under the weather, this is flu game type of performance.
I'm not under the weather. No,
he's asking questions, answering them. I'm sitting here. I agree. That's actually exactly what I meant. When can we speculate on UFC cards?
Never.
He basically said never again.
Never again.
Amazing.
Never again. As a matter of fact, get out of soccer now in the World Cup. Get your money out while you can now too. Maybe 10 more years. Right? If the whole hobby grows and maybe there's some other great UFC, fighter who brings a lot of attention to it or whatever it might be, maybe the next great Gracie or something, and there's enough people who are interested in it and it becomes a found thing again. But dude, listen, you didn't bring it up. You don't have to go much further than wrestling. Look at what happened with the wrestling cards. Seriously. And so you were able to, while you were here, you saw this. What the wrestling community was like. Because we talked to David Peck. Right?
And you saw Rob England are the two guys that come to mind.
So do me a favor, okay? Just you make me feel terrible. I don't even know because they don't sell, but what's the card ladder value of a 1982 All-Star Ric Flair in PSA 10? Right? The 1982 Wrestling All-Stars.
Feel terrible.
Ric Flair in a PSA 10, right? So let's take a look at that for your card ladder or look it up wherever it is you want to look for your stuff. Card Hedger.
1982?
Center Stage, wherever you go. 1982 Wrestling All-Stars Ric Flair. Yep, in PSA 10. What's the card ladder value? Okay? And this is part of the whole thing, guys. When prices run the way that they did, it changes the entire landscape because it's just, on the way up, people are trying to move these cards. People are trying to sell these cards to the next person. On the way down, it makes it harder. And we talk about this enough. But what kind of value is after that? Because when I purchased this card in PSA 10, and the pop, it says 6, I think, in the PSA report, and there's only 5 because one of them was taken out of the slab and re-slabbed with a different number. When I purchased this card in PWCC's auction, you guys could check. I think I bought it in 2018. It was $2,551 is what I paid for it. Okay? You got any kind of value for me? I don't look because it makes me cry.
It doesn't sell that often.
No, I don't. I think my purchase might be the last public sale.
How did you know that? March 27, 2019 for $2,550?
How did I know? Because that was my card. That's what I purchased. So I purchased that card 4 years ago, whatever the hell it was, 3.5 years ago, and it hasn't sold since. I sold it privately to your former boss. So
card ladder says $26,000 value.
So, but here's the thing, right?
Let's see
the people in the wrestling world, they collected these cards. Are they happy that the cards have gone up? Sure, they are, right? But then they watched what happened, and you watched what happened when Prism came out. And all of a sudden, it's okay, well, the Flair Wrestling All-Star is $20-something thousand card, and the Hogan and the Andre the Giant. Well, all right, well, the Rock Black one of one's got to be a $10,000 card. And these cards got to be all this money. That box has got to sell for thousands of dollars. And basically, anybody who came in got wrecked. Boxes were $1,000, $1,200, whatever the hell they were. Now they're $200, if that. Because it was no longer organic.
Does Panini make the money, or do the breakers make that money?
Panini makes some, but Panini priced those boxes significantly lower than what they were sold at. the distributors who mark it up make a little bit of the money, but ultimately on that one, it was the people who were selling it at retail prices who made a significant amount of money on that.
And you
Breakers.
think the David Pecks and the Rob England and that crew got into the prison?
No, they watched it from the side. Some of them got in. They watched it and were very, very skeptical about it because they came in with a different eye. If you go on Twitter and watch like David Peck's account and scroll back to when Prison was released, he was like, "What the hell is going on here? Like, how could this stuff sell for this much money?" Because this is somebody who's been collecting wrestling cards since I think '09, and was like, "All right, this card's $1. This card's $5. This card's $100, and that's like the most I ever paid for one. This card is this." And, painstakingly went out there and collected these cards. And the reason why the 82 All-Stars are worth what they're worth, and the reason why the wrestling cards are worth what they're worth, is because the rumored print run on it is like 3,000. It's sort of like, the star card, Jordan, like they're rare. They're ugly. They're rare. And
True rookie.
The supply was right. The supply was nice. It fit the amount of people who were collecting. Then all of a sudden, a lot of people come in, and boom, you get this skyrocket. Well, you can't expect that same thing to happen with the mass-produced cards where the supply is going to exceed the demand. It just becomes very difficult. It's why you saw runs in soccer. It's why I was able to buy my Pele Ali Baloge for $1,000 and sell it for $15, and regret selling it for $15 because I didn't get the most money on it that I could. But you see those crazy runs on those things in a matter of a year. But that's because it's true scarcity. It's true rarity. It was not being produced and kept, to have this, widespread stuff. And then as the demand grows, the supply is not there. Then all of a sudden, the manufacturers realize, shit, we got some increased demand. Let's throw out some supply. You showed me a picture in our group chat. Soccer is a nice one to rotate into. Mbappe base autos coming out of this Prism release. Okay. Now I know Mbappe hasn't signed a lot. He did that rare one that they just did, the PMG release, not PMG, PSG release, and those were expensive in the whole deal. But I saw these things, the base auto base sticker auto Mbappe from this Prism release, like $1,500.
Not gonna lie.
What do you think that's going to sell for? It's going to be
$500.
It's going to be less than half of what it's at, maybe even less than that, and that's not a recipe for success. And the reason is because they're just making so much of it.
So
now, go ahead.
I have a thought on that, right?
Please.
We say, how many grading companies can this industry sustain, right? Well, if you think about it, Panini is incentivized to print until literally the day that Fanatics takes over. If you run that logic, regardless of if you like it or not, there is a price point that these companies will eventually find where people basically send them all the cards or 50% of the cards that are ripped. So grading companies actually have a lot of inventory to put into their holders for the next 3, 4, 5 years.
Yep. If they're able to grade it at a certain price point.
Well, they eventually will. That is competition. They'll keep lowering it until that price point is found where basically every single rookie will be and reasonable, like out of 99 Lillard type of cards will be sent their way. They'll find that price point eventually.
What happens though if it becomes so cheap that you're not making any money on the grading? I mean, it still costs money. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think PSA could grade cards for $6 anymore. The way they're running their operations, the way they're scaled.
I really wonder. I wonder what that price point is because they're really just selling time.
And plastic, which costs more now than it did a couple years ago.
Hardly. Like, got to be less than like 30 cents per.
All right. I mean, listen, there's machines, there's rent, there's insurance,
What do you think the price point is? Like PSA, like the lowest, their break-even price on slabs. I'd say $8.
Yeah, okay, that might be right. With the full load all in, that might be accurate. I mean, because you're talking about a big company with a lot of expenditures. They have an accounting team.
But I think the people that are going to be grading those are like junior level graders that got trained by the main guys that are getting.
You still have to take the entire company into account, right? You still have to basically say, okay, this is what the company spends, right? And this is how many cards we grade. We need to get X per card back to break even, and X per card to start making money. Like the card company, the grading company is way more than just 5 people wearing
Agreed.
socks and sandals with a tissue box sitting on a grading floor grading cards.
I don't disagree. I'm curious myself. I think every company obviously has their own break-even point, but what are your thoughts on the 50K stimulus to whatnot?
So let me just put an exclamation point on this,
Okay.
because it's not all doom and gloom, right? So this has been the way of the hobby forever, right? And this is why when you look at the card prices from 2008 to 2018, it's a flat line. It's a flat line for the vast majority of cards, right? Sure, there's some ups and downs in certain players, but cards themselves. I mean, even Babe Ruth cards. Take a look. They weren't doing these huge, basically, slight. This. Take a look at it. Pull up the PSA page for the 1933 Gowdy Ruth fit number 53. Pull up that page. You'll see the chart. It's basically a flat line from 08 to 18, and then it's a spike. Right? I mean,
from 2004, like if we just use a Ruth Gowdy PSA 1, in 2004 it was $500.
Mm-hmm.
In 2010 it was $600. In 2013 it was $750, and in 2017 it was $1,000.
Yeah, so I mean, you just had 13 years, it doubled. It might as well buy a savings bond. You know what I mean? And that's what it's so. But here's what happens, right? That's because there was nothing in the hobby to bring in this influx of demand to justify the prices. That's why that PSA 10
Jordan
Ric Flair card that I just talked about was $2,500, and then all of a sudden it's now $25,000. Why? Because now there's 10 times as many people collecting, right? There's 10 times as many people. So all of a sudden, right, the supply of that didn't go up. The demand went up with a limited amount of supply. Now what happens is we have that you're looking at it, you have that rise, but as prices go up, all of a sudden these manufacturers, card companies, everybody comes into the hobby and says, all right, well, there's more people here. We got to print as much as we can. That's going to satiate the demand. There is this evening out of demand and supply. But guess what? If the supply and demand are the same, there's no reason for that price to go up. You have supply and demand even, the price stays even. What you need then is at some point in time, whether it's 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, fanatics, whatever the rationale is, the next COVID. Like it happened this time. Some other, who the heck knows what it is, but you had this boom in 2018 where everybody came and ran into the hobby, yourself included, right? What brought you here? What's going to be the next thing to bring more people here in 5 years, 10 years, whatever it is? And then all of a sudden, because the supply is staying steady and you have this new increase in demand, that will cause prices to go up.
So let me ask you something. And this is a question to everyone listening. If you look at those charts, we skip a period. That's important. We skip a period that's very important. From 2013 to 2018, it's not a meteoric rise, but it is a subtle rise. It's clearly where it goes from being flat to demand exceeding supply. Yeah. What happened in those years?
Giannis, best basketball player ever to travel. I mean, to play. No, obviously there's a build-up, right? It is
about the way you choose to be.
It's a slow and steady climb, right? There is increased demand into it. Very flat.
And then you started seeing the climb in 2013.
Honestly,
14, 15, 16.
I think it's probably the increased interest in sport. Basketball got to be a lot more fun. Tom Brady was out there with cards. There was more attention being paid to cards. And also, I think a lot of it is, if you think about it, 2013, right? So the kids who collected sports cards in the 80s, right? A 10-year-old in 1986 like myself, right? In 2013, I'm in my mid to late 30s. All of a sudden, I'm starting to make money, right? Maybe I'm having kids. And it's a time where people will start, that nostalgia boom starts to kick back in. And all of a sudden it's, all right, makes sense. Maybe not all at once, but that would make that chart make sense.
And then my generation gets in, and that's a interesting stuff.
Mug
and
life.
What's funny about that is it ties into when Panini started printing more products too. Because if you look at Panini 2009 to 2012, like no real releases, are kind of junky releases. And then you see 2012, they hit it with Prism, Select, then Optic came in 2016. So it's very interesting. I'll ask for the third time. What do you think about the Whatnot
So now
50K stimmy
I
package?
need you to explain this to me, right? Because I was not on. We did our own show on Whatnot this weekend. We did the football show.
We are Whatnot's black sheep. Basically, we just we don't do any of their promotions. We just are like, let's have a prediction show on
With
NFL.
the prediction. So I've seen a lot of people posting stuff today about a $50,000 thing. I saw Octane post a meme about it. I saw Shayway Vlogs he's doing his pilgrimage, and he even mentioned about it, right? Like, hey, I decide to leave the country when there's $50,000 at stake from Whatnot. Where's my $50,000? So I did see it. You know, I did see content about it, but was there $50,000? If so, where is it? And like, can I get some?
You're amazing. I don't know how you do what you do, and I hope Luke Nation appreciates it, because one day maybe you don't know what you have till it's gone. So I want to enjoy as much of Cage as I can.
I'm not going anywhere, dude.
They gave people who have sizable accounts in the hobby, whether YouTube, Instagram, or both, to go and buy cards at shows, and they gave them 50K. So it was like a 50K stimulus package to go and buy cards at shows and then sell them on the
to who? Like 5 people, 2 people, 10 people, or if it's a 50 grand split up between a bunch of them, or they all got
50K individually. So I know Roth and Sports Card Investor. Dude, it's chump change. They have like 100 million. This is all marketing for them.
Sports Card Investor got 50 grand, like himself. Jeff got 50 grand.
Can you stay focused?
I am. Dude, this is.
They got 50K to spend at a show. So they would buy that inventory, and then they probably have to sell the inventory, and they have to give Whatnot back 50K. I'm assuming, I don't know. They don't get to pocket the 50K. They get to buy the cards, then they sell them on the show, and then they have opportunity. If they make more than that, they probably get to keep it, but they have to meet like within a certain range of close to getting the 50K in sales. I don't know the exact info because we're not involved, but I'm just thinking of it from a business perspective.
So what do I think? Well, I think that's probably pretty smart. I mean, it's good for the hobby for the first 5 seconds, and then it's bad for the hobby for the rest of the time, because it's nice that it infuses cash and liquidity at a time where there's less liquidity and less cash and not a lot of that going around, especially at shows. I'm sure the dealers who got that $50,000 at that show were not complaining that it was Whatnot money. And hopefully that money continued to cascade down into other deals. They were able to then use that $50,000 from each one of these folks to buy cards from foot traffic that was coming in, turn their inventory, be able to maybe sell some stuff to kids, to new entrants in the hobby, the right way. And then if Whatnot's doing what you're saying, which I assume you're probably right, that $50,000 gets churned a second time, being sold on Whatnot, exposing a new audience, new different people to different types of cards there, getting sold again. From a Whatnot perspective, it increases the traffic. People are talking about it. So obviously Whatnot's name is out there. And then more importantly, if they had 5 influencers doing $50,000 worth of, inventory, they're selling that all on their platform. I'm sure that these influencers didn't buy $50,000 worth of cards and only get $20,000 back. I'm sure they're going to get close to the 50 grand back on the platform. Whatnot takes their sales fee, their cut. People are getting, people are becoming more active users by buying. I'm sure that if they lose money on it, it's not that much. It's definitely good, advertisement. I would say it's not something that can be done too often, because just like, governmental stimulus, you can only prop things up artificially, so many times before you realize that it's, Krispy Kreme's donut stock.
Well, where's the money coming from? Money always has to come from somewhere. So like with the Federal Reserve, it's literally printed. They literally print it out. Here, it's investor money. So up until a certain point, like, investors don't care. But then they're like, hey, where are you spending all of this marketing money, and are we seeing a return? So this is investor stimulus through Whatnot. And honestly, whichever way you slice it, I've seen investor funds spent way worse than just pouring it back into the small businesses of the hobby.
Yeah, somebody gave us money once. I mean, talk about a waste. P.S. Investors, possibly you.
Jalen Hurts.
If there's an investor out there who's looking to throw some money around it and was going to okay, let me give this guy 50 grand to spend at a show, or you want to give 50 grand to Andrew, I mean, Andrew will do better stuff with that money for you. Investors reach out.
For 100% sure now, but like not maybe 2-3 years ago. Now I know what we could use that money for. We could onboard marketing talent. We could hire videographers, hire designer. We have the team. Honestly, I would just love to get them paid, and I know the sky is the limit for that. And anyway, stop getting me distracted. Redskins, Eagles. Thoughts? Did you watch the game?
Watched every play of the Commanders-Eagles game. Yes.
Oh, right. My bad. Thoughts? It's always hard, like division rivals with nothing to lose.
Thoughts? I had the game pegged wrong. I thought the Eagles would win that game. I picked the Eagles on our show. Going into the game, watching, when Jalen Hurts did his walk-in to the stadium, I told Ian, Washington's going to win this game. And he's like, why? Hurts is wearing like a fuchsia suit. Like I said, all right, that's it. Done. Fuchsia. Done. When he's starting to feel himself a little bit. All right. And you go from the underdog to the MVP favorite.
You go from the hunter to the hunted.
And all of a sudden, you're not sneaking up on anybody. And when you're the undefeated team, this is what happens in the NFL. Nothing against Jalen Hurts. He had a good game. And his team kind of let him down. But you go out there now with a huge target on your back because everybody wants to be the team that knocked off the last undefeated team. They just do. It's now a different sport, and you're going to get everybody's best. It's sort of like the Rams this year got everybody's best because they're, believe it or not, with 3 wins and no more Cooper Kupp for the rest of the season. They're the returning champs, the Rams. They get everybody gets up to play them. Everybody gets up to, and the Redskins, the Commanders, they are a division rival with a game QB who was playing for his career, right? If they lost this game, Wentz is healthy. Carson Wentz is back. Like, this guy basically, I believe, bought himself a continued starting job with the Washington football team, with the Commanders now. I don't know how you replace Heineke with a healthy Wentz. Now, just beat an undefeated Eagles team. They're still 5-5 and dead last in their division. It shows you, how divisions matter. Tom Brady's 5-5 and flying high. These guys are 5-5 and in the basement.
They got to feel good about the win, man. Like, that's the thing. Ron Rivera always gets his team up, and playing in the division's always hard. I love it, man. I don't know how you go back to
momentum. They've had some great momentum with Heineke. They really have. And Robinson looks like a beast of a running back. Talk about a great story. Guy got shot in August. You know what I mean? Twice in the leg, missed all of his, arteries. And, and he's back running, I think, week 4, week 5 with the team. McLaurin is good. Samuel is good. Gibson is good. That defense is good. They've been doing all this without Chase Young, who they get back next week. Look, the Eagles could have won that game very easily. It's not on Hurts. I think he now has multiple touchdowns 4 straight weeks or something like that.
It was definitely a roughing the passer call. Like, that was the right call.
Oh, you mean at the end of the game? Yeah, 100%.
I think the defensive lineman just tripped or like stumbled. When like you're walking up the stairs and you stub your toe and you like, did anyone see me stumble up the stairs?
When you are 350 pounds and you're going full speed, it is very difficult to stop that momentum. So it's tough. The defensive players are in a very difficult position, especially with the rules about how they can and can't hit a quarterback. But that was a penalty.
It's the best thing that could have happened to the Eagles. I sometimes think that the Patriots going undefeated hurt them more than not. Like, sometimes you need that getting back to humility somewhere in the middle of the season, so you kind of get remotivated to work harder. I agree with you, man, because it's hard. Like, you're winning, you're like, we're unstoppable. I'm gonna wear fuchsia, oversized sweaters. No,
Kuzma.
You're gonna get popped in the mouth. Anything else before we wrap?
Listen, I had a lot of Eagles fans reach out to me today because, it is what it is. And I will tell you this, 90% of people who had Hurts stuff have sold. 90%. There are a couple of people, they fall into 2 categories of people who are telling me how wrong I am and I'm an idiot. People who just don't understand what I was saying. They're staunch Eagle supporters, which is great. You want to stick by your player, that's great. But if you have multiple cards of Hurts, you should take some of that money off the table. And number 2, like huge Hurts bag holders. And believe it or not, those are the ones who are fighting me the most, are the ones who should have been selling all along some of their stuff. You were right, man. You were right the whole time. Take some of that win. Not
Yeah.
everybody's been right. Most people
Yeah,
have been
but
wrong.
Cage, you know this. Like some people don't want to be helped. Like some people want to be right more than they want to win.
Yeah, but it's not that. This is human nature. When you're right, it's hard to think that it's going to stop being right. It's hard to see that rise stop.
Cage,
It's
can you believe 9 months ago we were betting on NFTs?
Yeah.
This year.
I mean, by the way, that was what I was thinking about as talking about
Me
this,
too.
myself included. Like, wow, this NFT is the best. This is going to go up. But it's human nature. It really is. And NFTs, that was a supply and demand thing too. It's why the crypto punks kind of flew the way they did, right? They were the first ones there, and when a massive amount of people went into the space, those were the ones that everybody flocked to. And then all of a sudden, every day there were 10,000 more being put in 10 times over. You know what I mean? And no matter how fast that space grew, there was no way for the amount of demand to keep up with the amount of supply that was out there.
You guys really fucked up last year. From like September to December, we just basically got free magic airdrops. We didn't even know where we would wake up. We'd say, "We're not working today. We're gonna get an airdrop."
I'm still waiting on the MetaMask airdrop.
SOS token. Hold.
Hold.
Looks rare. Stake that bitch. What
World,
I was
world
thinking
tokens.
about that on my workout cage. I was like, this year, what we were literally like talking about NFTs and like, I mean,
so take it a different way. Think about what we're going to be talking about.
You don't want to lose them, yeah.
No. What are we going to talk about next year? It's not no lose them or whatever it is, but think about what we were talking about. Think about how it's been, 860 episodes almost, but it's been 2 years and change where it was, $50 Zions, where it was, all the stuff we chat about, then NFTs, crypto, and what's next year?
I think next year is going to be a boring year, and then they're going to light us up with the political shit in 2024 heading up to the election. It's going to be still waters next year with some like bad economic shit, but people get over the bad economic stuff pretty quickly because that's actually real. But I that's what I think. It was just going to be bad economic stuff and relatively flat.
All right.
What do you think?
I don't know. That's the cool thing. If you would have said to me earlier in the year, we'd be talking about NFTs, I'd be like, no way. What the hell is that? I don't know what that is. I have no idea. But listen, at some point in time, somebody has to wake up and be realistic about the amount of supply that's coming out there. Do me a favor as I'm doing this. Okay. Panini Digital was something that I loved, something that I pushed. Thought it was like, this is a cool thing. If Top Shot can sell, this is Panini. It's Prism. It's the brand. It's the whole deal, right? Pull up the Panini blockchain site. They have a pack that just released today. Okay. And
your wish is my command.
Panini will take that medicine now too, because Panini, they have baseball, which is unlicensed. They do a whole bunch of packs. They do basketball. They do football. They do all kinds of stuff. They have Prism. They have you name it. And the amount of people that we've had, that are big time collectors, Mr. Spinatron and all those other guys, go to the blockchain site. It hasn't grown. They haven't done anything to grow because what are they doing? They're doing that the crime that all manufacturers are guilty of right now, and it's just keep printing and printing and printing and printing. So there you go. Click on that. That was today's release, $80. What is it? Read the description for me. What Panini is making packs of for $80 each.
NRJ Music Award NFTs. NRJ Music Awards?
Yeah, it's some European music award. $80 digital NFT packs. Not sport, not basketball, they have soccer, they have baseball, they have all this stuff. But today on their site is some sort of, I think it's French, music awards that they are releasing blockchain packs of. Guys, there comes a point in time where you have to take a step back from, the hobby that we're in, the business that we're in, and be like, okay, Fonzie jumped the shark, right? I still don't know what the hell it means to eat a Kit Kat in the shower, but I'm assuming it's not a good thing, right? We still have to realize that for this whole thing to not be a joke, you have to realize that the demand is limited. We should be doing the right thing by our customers here instead of just hitting the gas pedal on that print run. And when I saw that today, I was like, okay, I may have to sell every single one of my Panini digital cards. I may have to sell every single one of them. The problem is I don't think I can get anything for any of them because they're all pretty worthless.
But think about, so like, we've had the privilege, we met Josh Looper from Fanatics. You saw the people that were making the decisions. At least they put their face and had conversations. Do you know who makes decisions for Panini?
No.
Does anybody out there know?
No idea. I could make some guesses. They would all be wrong. I mean, I think honestly, card porn.
And that's another episode. So thank you all for listening to another episode of Lucas, Tigers, and Bronzo My. I wanted to tell you about a new service that we have starting as of today, and I'm really, really excited to bring it to you guys. So as a part of our partnership with SGC, we got 50 free submissions every single month, and many of you have taken advantage of that. And it's amazing that we could have the opportunity to 650 episodes, 675 episodes in, to go ahead and give back to our community. As people were sending those cards in, they asked, can we send 5, 10, 20 more cards to you guys? We'll pay for it, but we wanted them graded with SGC. You guys know SGC is turning cards around in 13 to 14 business days, have incredible customer service, and their secondary market values are going up day after day after day. And that's exciting for the hobby and exciting for the grading landscape. So we didn't want to just rush into it. We wanted to do it right. And what we did was I relocated here to Boca Raton, Florida. I opened up a P.O. box maybe 5 minutes away from SGC, and I will be hand delivering and hand picking up the cards. So you don't have to worry about anyone else touching your cards. It will be me, and I will update you every step of the way. So here's how it's going to work. I'm going to personally pick up the cards from a P.O. box, prep them, new card saver, new penny sleeve, and deliver them to SGC every single Tuesday. Why Tuesday? Well, it lets the stragglers over the weekend come back through on Monday and gives me a day to prep, and it basically gives SGC the entire week to work on grading those cards. Once your cards pop, only then at the end of the process will you be paying for the service. It's $25 per card, simple as that, and the turnaround times have never been faster. We're hearing right now 13, 14, less than 20 business days. So there it is. 9170 Glades Road, number 135 is the P.O. Box in Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. 9170 Glades Road, number 135, Boca Raton, Florida, 33434. Of course, you could shoot me an email or shoot me a text anytime, and I'm always available. Many of you already have my email. It's iamandrewgoldberg@gmail.com. or my cell phone number, 215-519-9154. Reach out with any questions. I could walk you through the process. I've hopped on the call with quite a few of you, and I'm happy to do that. Love you, Luca Nation.